Hi, what I wanted to talk about right now is being as it's the holiday season and with racism and white supremacists running amok right now due to the election of Trump. Um, I think for a lot of people, I'm gonna address people that are in biracial relationships or interracial relationships that have biracial children. Right now, with families that are divided, a lot of families are divided now. With I know with my son who's biracial, and he spends some of the holidays over his white side of the family, and there are people in that side of the family that I have to say cannot be around my child, and so it does bring some division in the family. I had to make a complete stance because this woman is a Trump supporter, and has made racist comments that I just do not agree with. This was years before even Trump was running for president, and there's white supremacy in your family, and people think just because there's a biracial child brought into the family that somehow eradicates the racism in that family, and it doesn't. It just does not. That's just one of the reasons why I'm now against interracial couples having children. I don't believe that that's a good idea. I believe it's a horrible idea because your child will still have to deal with racism now, but now your child has to deal with racism within his or her own family, and that's not something that I didn't think about that, and I didn't look at that as being a potential problem, but it is. And so if anyone is thinking about having a biracial child, I would say please don't do that. If you need to have a child that you want to be biracial, I would suggest adopting a child out of the foster care system, but definitely not having a child with a white person because it's just not a good idea. It's not. um Having said that, I don't think, like, if you're in a interracial relationship and you've been in it for numerous years, I'm not suggesting, that you leave that person or get a divorce or something. I mean, in some cases, I'm sure that it would be the smart thing to do if that person is making any racial remarks. Or I've seen videos with where the boyfriend of the black American is screaming racial slurs and telling her to go back to Africa and stuff like that. If you're in that kind of situation, you need to just leave that white supremacist relationship. That's disgusting. It's something that I would never deal with. Like, I don't understand how someone could put up with stuff like that. But we have stuff like that within relationships right now. And so we really should think about that before we decide to have a child with a white person. Because imagine if that there's a child in that situation, and that child's hearing his or her father yelling at the mother, calling her a nigger. Like, to that child, it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm brown too, so there's something wrong with me. And there was nothing wrong with the child. There's something wrong with the white supremacist terrorists. And I feel like we're going to get to a point that we need to step back from the white people in our lives, and just kind of focus on building black Americans up. And again, I'm not saying get a divorce, but if your significant other does not have your back and doesn't see racism and white supremacist terrorism as a problem, then that is not someone that you should be with. You should leave that person, and not because of their race, but because they clearly have white supremacist hatred and terrorist views too. Because if they didn't, they would be on your side, They would tell you, you know, racism is wrong, and they would be willing to stand up with you and fight white supremacist terrorism right along with you. If they're not doing that, then they're not for you. They do not have your back. And if it came to be that there was a race war, they would probably kill you at the drop of a dime. And so, only if you plan on staying in that relationship with a white man or a white woman, don't trust them 100%. I'm going to tell you that is not something that you should do. Trusting a white person 100% is, I will never do it. I will trust, I can love another white person. My ex-husband's white. I have friends that are white, and I would trust them to a certain extent. But when it comes to race and in America and racism and white supremacist terrorism, I don't trust them, because those are people that are benefiting from this white supremacist system. And so they're going to look at it as you want to take something away from them. Even if they're saying I'm not racist, and even if they're not entirely racist, you're still taking away their white supremacist status. So you have to look at that, and you have to realize that. And when you realize that, you know that you cannot trust these people 100%. All white people are not bad. All white people are not evil. You will have white individuals that are standing up for Black Americans and diversity, and wanting to end the terrorism of white supremacy, which that is good, but you need to make sure those are the people that you're hanging out with. And still, I would not have a child with any of those white people. I see a lot of white women raising Black children, and I find that disgusting. I think that is horrible, and it is putting that child in such a horrible situation. But if the kids are there, they're there, and you have to just do the best you can do. And with me, I have to teach my child that white supremacy does exist and that it is terrorism. And I have to, teach him that though all white people are not bad, that he cannot fully trust them. They're not a teacher. I don't care if they're your teacher, your doctor, your dentist, your best friend, your aunt, your uncle, or your father. They cannot be completely trusted. Because I really think there's something psychological that is imbalanced in the white community that makes them, there has to be, in order for you to brutalize, torment, rape, kill, set on fire, hang from trees, Black Americans for the last almost 700 years, there has to be some genetic flaw. There has to be some kind of genetic flaw. No, I'm not a geneticist. All I can do is go by facts and look at how long something has gone on. And when you look at that and you look at, okay, so that has to be great grandparents and going all the way down to today, to not think that there has to be some kind of genetic flaw would be kind of insane. There has to be some genetic flaw. And then on the other side, there has to be some, I would call it a flaw, a genetic flaw with Black Americans, because we continuously are submissive and passive to these white supremacists, and we keep wanting to pray for them, and we keep wanting to plead with them, and we keep wanting to teach them, and everything we can possibly do except take a stand and say this is not going to happen. And until we do that, we're going to be dealing with this consistent racism and this consistent terrorism. And I think we're going to realize that more as we go farther into this presidency. But I'll talk about the presidency later. Right now, I really want to focus on just kind of, empowering these Black people that are in interracial relationships. It's hard right now. It's hard for me we have to eliminate some people out of our lives. A lot of people. It ends up being way more than we ever thought, because for the majority of the time, race wasn't talked about. It wasn't up in, so everywhere. It wasn't on the news and Facebook and everywhere you went. And so you weren't really, white people weren't really forced to address it as they are right now. And so you're dealing with it more within your family and your close friends. And it's very important to know right now not to get pregnant by any of them, not to have any children by any of them. Do not have children by white people. It's detrimental to the child. And right now we can just do our best right now to protect our children from dealing with these racist white supremacists within their own family. And just teach them. Take these as teaching moments. And even with my son, I took it as, a teaching moment for him to talk about white supremacy. And it wasn't something that I brought to his attention, but it was something his cousins brought to his attention. This white supremacist aunt of his has 2 daughters, and they're young. They're about 8 and 9. And they brought it to his attention that their mom was racist and that she supported Donald Trump. And so when you have to hear that from your own flesh and blood cousins, that is disturbing. And it was disturbing to him. And so I found, the best way to explain it to him is explain to him white supremacy and how it's terrorism, and how you can't expect, just because these people are in your family, that they're going to love you for who you are. They're still going to not like you because your skin is brown, regardless of whether your father is white, but you're still not white. And for me, that's a good thing. My son loves being brown and he loves his blackness, and so I'm grateful for that. I really teach him to love himself, and not just as a black person, but as a biracial person. He still has to love himself. That's who he is. But I also teach him that he can't trust white people, and that's what I believe, and that's what I teach him. So just do what you're doing, and thank you for watching.